Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Corporate Experiences STEM series featuring a virtual field trip to a video production company, Atomic Productions. My name is Dee Dee, and I am your host from Wender Weiss Foundation for Children. And we have partnered with Atomic Productions to bring you today's event. We are going to start off today with a tour of Atomic Productions headquarters, including a sneak peek into client meetings, the equipment room, the editing suites, and the green room. Next, Danny and Gotti, the company founder, will share his personal journey and the history of Atomic Productions. The students will then hear career journeys and advice from a couple of Atomic Productions employees who will talk about how they got started in video production. And a couple of educational case studies will follow, featuring the making of TV commercials and some lessons learned. Finally, we'll have a Q&A session to answer questions that were submitted in advance, or new questions you guys can share with your teachers during the presentation. And with that, we're ready to kick things off. We would like to introduce the owner, producer, and director of Atomic Productions to give you a little welcome. And that is Danny and Gotti.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Welcome. I'm Danny. This is Lucy here. Lucy's our production manager. So thanks for joining us today. We're going to try and make this entertaining and educational, but we want to start out with a video we prepared that kind of takes us on a tour of Atomic, takes a tour throughout our facility here in Emeryville, and where we have a bunch of edit suites. We actually have 8 edit suites and a studio. You'll see all that in the production here when we play the video in a few minutes, but we also have in this video something called case studies, where we break down a production and kind of go behind the scenes on it and show you some of the problems and issues, or not issues necessarily, just kind of little tricks of the trade that we do that you may not notice in a production, whether it be visual effects or just on location doing something. So the case study will take you behind the scenes on the work we do here at Atomic. And that's about it. When we come back, we'll do a Q&A, and Lucy and I will get some others in here to answer some questions. And we'll take it from there. But first, let's go right to the video. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
Hey there. So I hear you're interested in video production. I'm Danny Gotti with Atomic. We're a full-service video production company with cinematographers, writers, directors, producers, motion graphic artists, the whole nine. We do everything under one roof. Let's go take a tour of Atomic Productions. At our headquarters here in Emeryville, we work with our clients to bring their ideas to life, from concept to completion. Let's check in at a client meeting right now. One of the big things when you start a production is to get together and meet with the creative team, the director, the client even, get everybody together in one room and talk about things. Work through the production and come up with some creative direction. This is a Zoom room, but this is how the pandemic has changed things also. Everything is done over Zoom these days, and people can be phoned in from all over the world. So you're working on what exactly?
We're going over Mercedes-Benz for Northern California.
And this can involve not only going over the script and a creative idea, talent, auditions can be done via Zoom. You could do voiceover sessions over Zoom. Anything can be done with a connection like this. So no longer does everybody have to fly to meetings or gather in one room. You can all be over in a room like this. They're working on one aspect of production, but part of the creative process is also wardrobe and props, how those all fit in. It could be a lovely handcrafted prop like this, or something as simple as an everyday item like a remote control. And maybe that needs something even more impressive, like a giant version of it. Visual effects aren't always done in computers. They're done with propping, with set design, and all kinds of other, what we call practical effects. Props are one thing, but another big part of any production is wardrobe. It's often overlooked, but you want wardrobe that fits not only the color scheme of the video, but you may have to, for instance, have wardrobe to present a highway patrol officer, or become a military person, or even a doctor. But also it's TV-friendly colors too. So solid colors, no stripes, no patterns, no logos. Things like that are often overlooked, but you got to think of those things because when you go on TV, everything has to be just right. Once the meetings are finished and the creative is locked in, then it's time to shoot the production. At Atomic, we have a small green screen stage just like this where everything comes together to shoot corporate video, live streams, or even commercial endorsements like this.
Action.
Sugar bombs for all your sugary goodness. Start your day off with tooth decaying deliciousness.
And cut.
So whether you're shooting on a green screen like back there, or you're on location, you need equipment. This is our equipment room and has everything you need for making the perfect production. Lighting equipment, grip and electric equipment, audio equipment. We have multiple cameras too. Red cameras, Sony cameras, FS7s are a great camera to use, 4K cameras, and DSLRs even. So everything you need is right here for any production. And we're mobile too. We can do productions all over the Bay Area, all over the country, and all over the world. We've done productions in Europe and South America, everywhere. I'd like to see them drive to Europe though, that'd be fun. Once the footage is in the can, as we say, the real magic begins. This is where an editor will sift through maybe hours of clips and hundreds of files to put together what's called a rough cut. The rough cut is where the narrative begins to come together and the story is told. It unfolds before your eyes with maybe a rough cut for the VO, maybe a music track that'll be put in, but the whole thing begins to come together in the edit suite after the rough cut. Many videos include motion graphics. These are the graphic overlays you see, for instance, when a person is identified on camera, we call it a lower third. That's what this is. But it could go a lot further than that. Visual effects are a big part of production, and that's done on high-end systems such as this. This is an Autodesk Flame that is very advanced, very difficult to learn, but you could do any number of effects between this and After Effects, which is an Adobe program. You're manipulating scenes where real-life shots are changed to convey a message, to make something funny or more visually interesting. We don't have 25 gnomes to buy at the store when he could just take one and copy a bunch of them and put them into the scene. So any number of things can be done with visual effects. It's really changing the way videos are done these days because everything is make-believe. That'll be our little secret. At Atomic, some of our larger edit suites are called client suites. This is where a client and an editor can get together and collaborate in real time with helpful feedback.
Now James, this isn't bad, except it sucks. So if we could do it one more time, but this time do it good, that'd be great.
That kind of helpful collaboration makes for a really smooth production. This is a production that ultimately is going to be finished with graphics and color and audio passes and will eventually be sent out for distribution. Sometimes it goes to TV stations, sometimes it goes to digital platforms such as mobile devices or websites. Content is king, so the content, wherever it ends up, it doesn't matter. We produce it, and then it's up to the client to decide where they take it from there. We send it out the web once it's finished, and the project is done. So once a project is finished, then it's archived. Backup is a big part of what we do here. So it starts right here. This is a SAN. It has over 200 terabytes of data on it. When a project moves from the SAN to what this system is, an LTO. The LTO is an archival system made up of these tapes here. These tapes each have 12 terabytes of information saved on them. Hollywood movies and all sorts of things are backed up on this. It's a gold standard of archival systems. There are 50 of those tapes within this box here. A little robot arm goes around and grabs the tape and restores the project. Our database consists of productions back to 1997. So we could restore a video or a commercial or any project from before you were born and put it back in our systems to edit. So that's it. Full service video production from start to finish. That's what we do, all under one roof. Thanks for visiting Atomic Productions. Goodbye! So Atomic Productions began quite a long time ago. We originally started in the late 80s when I was a teenager doing wedding videos. It was my sister's fault. She made me shoot her wedding video when she was married. And I just got my first video camera, so it coincided perfectly with that. And I shot her wedding video, and that began what was Maverick Video Productions, because I drove a Ford Maverick at the time, which is a beat down old car, and I thought I'd name the production company after that. So that's what got me into it. I started getting paid gigs. It was the first time that I realized I could make money with video production. Before that, I'd only thought about this would be fun. It's a hobby. But it's something much greater than that these days, because when I was growing up, I didn't have access to all the tools and the software and the technology that you have today. I made my first video with a rudimentary video camera that was a two-piece one and hanging off your shoulder, weighed 600 pounds, and basically that was it, recorded on VHS. So that's what I was doing wedding videos. When I eventually got doing more and more stuff, I got a job at a TV station when I was in college. And the TV station was a home shopping channel. But after that program, they did nothing with all this beautiful equipment they had at a TV station, which was based in San Leandro. So I saw this as an opportunity. With my rudimentary camera, I didn't have access to the equipment they had. So I went to station management one day and said, instead of turning people down who want to do production, can I use the equipment at the TV station to maybe do some paid gigs, maybe make a commercial or a video for somebody? And they said, fine, as long as it's after hours. And this became an incubator for what would become Atomic Productions, because I was very much into graphics and animation at the time. And this was during a period where nobody was doing that, where the programs that were capable of 3D animation were incredibly complicated, and people didn't want to spend the time, money, or effort to do it. I was able to get in through this TV station to do some animation. And I was doing 3D animation at 20-something years old in 1990 that nobody was doing on TV at the local level. So people came to us to say, hey, can you do our commercial? Can you do our logo? And we did a ton of graphics back in the day. And this built up to have relationships with what would become other ad agencies, other people in the industry who would go on to have corporate jobs, go on to have jobs in broadcasting with other stations. And we created this network just totally by accident. There was no major plan or anything, but we made this happen through our working at the TV station. And when I say our, if you look around this office here as we took a tour, a number of the people who started here back in the mid-90s or so also worked at this TV station. And eventually the TV station was sold to Univision, and we moved out. We had to move out. At that time, probably about 6 people on the TV station staff were all working for Atomic, and probably doing more work for Atomic than for the TV station. But we took over their offices, we built our own offices, we bought our own equipment back in 1997, and we started making an investment in both personnel and equipment back then. And when it was sold in 2003, we had already built up quite a bit of clientele and quite a bit of equipment that was our own. So it was an easy move into San Leandro, another office in San Leandro, where we built out our own building and started what was, in fact, Atomic on its own without the TV station at the time. So we were in San Leandro from 2003 to 2016 when we moved to Emeryville. And this is our facility these days. And it's come quite a long way from when we were in a little small office in the TV station that we packed probably 4 people into. An office smaller than this was our main edit suite. So it's just something that we built over the years. And everybody goes in saying, well, did you have a business plan? What was your big idea? How'd you get started? No, it just happened. You know, we just dove into it and said, yes, we can do it. If the phone rang and somebody wanted you to make a corporate video and we didn't know anything about this corporation or anything where we'd even go, maybe we never even made a corporate video before, I instructed everybody to say, yeah, sure, we've done that before. And as soon as we hang up the phone, we figure out how to do it and get it done. So that's how we built our clientele, and that's how we built our whole company based on what is essentially a need. People needed content, people needed video production, and we were able to fulfill that. And there was no business plan. There was no major investment for many years because of our unique situation with the TV station. But as time went on, we were able to slowly build up to it where we did get financing, we did get our own equipment, we did start building out. We're up to 8 edit suites now. So that's quite a bit of equipment and quite a bit of investment over the years, but it's nothing you have to make right away. You build up to it, and yesterday's client pays for tomorrow's equipment. So that's kind of how you build it. You build as you go. And no master plan. Don't worry about a master plan. Just do what comes naturally, it feels right, and what you want to do, let your passion lead the path forward.
So I got into the film industry in high school. The high school that I went to in Alameda actually had a TV media class. So we got to have hands-on with cameras, and we actually had a control room. So we were able to switch and learn how to direct and produce and write scripts. And we also had cameras that we were allowed to check out and go and shoot whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. And then we'd come back and we'd edit it. So with that, what I would do is I would borrow the camera and I would go shoot the local bands in the area, not only with the video camera, but also with my still camera. And that is how I got into video production. I got my job at Atomic when I was 19 years old. My best friend's mom knew I was looking for a job while I was going to junior college and sent me to the Spanish-speaking consulate in Oakland. And what I thought was an interview for them actually turned out to be where they were going to help me find a job. So when I told them that I was majoring in video production, they pulled out a job opening for a TV station in San Leandro. For some reason, they hired me. The only skills that I had was from high school, and I had been removed already by 2 years. My role at Atomic has evolved over the years, and I actually started out as just a PA or a production assistant. So basically, if they told me to go get them a cup of coffee, I would go get them a cup of coffee. And I also did my fair share of schlepping a bunch of really heavy equipment on my back. So moving it from point A to point B for shoots. The really great thing about working at a small production company, especially back then, was that they promoted everybody learning whatever you wanted. So just because I was a production assistant didn't mean that I wasn't going to be able to learn how to run camera or write scripts or produce and direct. So today I'm the production manager of Atomic. I'm not really sure how I went from just being a production assistant to production manager. I just kept learning everything and wanted to learn more. So from learning not only just the day-to-day things like how to edit, how to do graphics, how to run cameras. I started learning how to write scripts, how to produce, how to direct, and even I got really excited when they would let me make props, and then somehow I started doing makeup. So over the years, it just evolved where I also got involved in like scheduling and overseeing all the projects that we have going on. And so now I'm the production manager, and I not only oversee all productions that are going on, I will still edit and do makeup and build props, and occasionally will help move equipment around, although I only do the light stuff now. So one of the fun things that I also get to do here is I am our in-house makeup, wardrobe, and prop person. And I am not professionally trained. I did not go to cosmetology school, and I had no idea what I was doing. I started asking questions to the makeup artists that we actually hired, real makeup artists, and the community here in the Bay Area is really tight-knit. So instead of going like, oh, she's trying to steal my job, they actually told me what they were doing, showed me like their kit, all the things they had in it. And so I made my first kit, and I still have the little tiny kit that I had, which had like 4 powder foundations, a bunch of liquid foundations, a little bit of an eye palette, and mascara, and I called it good. And from there now, the guys always joke that the makeup and wardrobe takes up more room in the production van than the actual equipment. Our most recent fun project was where we decided we needed to electrocute somebody, but to make it more of the cartoony, fun-looking electrocution rather than what somebody that's actually been electrocuted looked like.
Dude, I need to go back to school.
Ready to get your college degree? Gavilan College offers training.
So I had to look that up and figure out how to do it. And through trial and error, I came up with the picture that you see behind me.
I found Atomic while going to school at DVC, and I was doing a television certificate program, which at the end of it required an internship at a production facility, TV station, anything that does TV. And I'm a procrastinator, so I waited till the last minute and found a place called KFTL Television. And they had an opening at the time, and they took me on. And after a few years at KFTL, I kind of got on board at Atomic Productions and have been here ever since. So in the early days at Atomic, I did a little bit of everything from camera work to lighting, a grip, did some editing, did some graphics, but just kind of played around with a lot of different aspects of television. And time moved on, I kind of moved more and more towards editing and graphics, but having that background with camera work and lighting and all this other stuff, I kind of understood what everybody else was going through. And it made me a better editor because I knew all the different aspects of the television production field. And so yeah, what I do now is I pretty much primarily edit and do graphics. I am capable to do other things, although I'm not quite as good at it as I used to be, but I can do it. I work on primarily commercial production, although I do some corporate videos here and there. Kind of depends on what is happening every given week. I've been primarily editing TV commercials in the automotive industry, meaning local car advertising. And I've been doing that for a very long time. I've edited hundreds and hundreds of commercials over the years. And one of the things I enjoy most about video production is that it's different every single day. I don't do the same thing every single day. One minute I can be editing a 30-second commercial. Next minute I could be editing a 3-minute video. Another week I could have a whole month to edit one project, and then the next day I could get a project that needs to be turned around in 3 days. So it really varies, and that is one very nice thing about video production is there's a lot of variety of projects and things to do. If someone wants to break into this industry, I would recommend learning as much as you possibly can. Connect with as many people in the industry as you can and learn from them, ask a lot of questions, and just get involved. Get your hands in there and get your feet dirty and just take on all the work you can when you get it. And then as you get more experience and you get more skills, you'll start to figure out what you like best. And you never know, you might be able to find yourself with a career in this field.
When you talk about challenges in video production, it's not only creative challenges, but it's the things that kind of just are thrown at you and you have to adjust to. One of the things we did, especially working with professional athletes, as we have a long relationship with the 49ers and the Raiders and the NFL in general, but we were approached by Bay Area News Group one day, who handles a number of papers in the Bay Area, newspapers, old-fashioned newspapers. And they had noticed a soundbite from Warriors guard Klay Thompson, who said before every game he reads the paper. So this newspaper group took that and said, we need to do something with that, because that's a way to approach younger viewers. Find a star athlete who reads the paper. That's a fairly rare find in this day and age, especially of someone of Klay Thompson who's in his 20s and 30s. So this is an opportunity for us to build a campaign based around this one little nugget of information that Bay Area News Group decided to put forth as a creative campaign across all platforms, TV, radio, internet, digital advertising. So it was quite a big campaign. And we approached this with a creative idea that showed in one of the episodes of Klay being animated as a 2D figure. So that was one campaign we did. Then they liked the idea, but they wanted to really use Klay Thompson in this case. So they were able to get him, and we had him for a day to shoot a commercial. This was a few years ago, if you may remember, that Klay Thompson decided to grow a beard at one point. And when he first was in the league, he didn't have a beard. Later on, he would grow a rather substantial beard. And the idea behind this story that we built for the commercial campaign was Klay through the years. How did he come about reading the newspaper? So we built a campaign based on Clay as a child, Clay as a teenager, Clay as a NBA player, as a college player, etc. So all these images of Clay through the years. With only having Clay for a very short time, we couldn't ask him to shave. He was never going to shave for us. So digital effects come into play, right? We had to do something to make Clay look younger. But to make that campaign where we had to show him in different ages, we actually hired lookalike actors and had an audition for who looks like Clay as a young age, who looks like Clay as a teenager, who looks like Clay as a college player. So we built this up and cast this and shot it over the course of a day. What we ended up having to do was actually use Clay Thompson, full beard and everything, in one of the scenes where he's actually reading something at his house in his kitchen. And as the story goes, this was when he first got drafted in the NBA. And to portray that, there was nobody else you could use at that age because Clay's not that much older. Obviously, he wasn't going to shave for us. So what we did was, through a digital effect, remove his beard in post. And in order to do that, we had to research what Clay looked like in those days. So we pulled shots from the web, we gathered high-res imagery, whatever we could find, and recreated his face, removing the beard. And it goes into his neck and goes into his cheekbones and under his nose and things of that nature, which are very difficult if you see the shot. He's moving around, he's in 3D space. So all that had to be camera tracked in a very difficult painting window of, I don't know how many seconds it is, but in order to do that, each frame had to be painted out with Clay as a clean-shaven individual. So if you think about how many frames you're dealing with video, in this particular instance, we shot at 24 frames per second. So every frame, there's 24 still images of which to paint out Clay's beard. So this shot lasted maybe 3 or 4 seconds. So you could do the math on how tedious digital effects can be through that kind of work. And if you were to watch it now, you'd be hard-pressed to know that was Clay, clean-shaven, through digital only.
Clay Thompson has always enjoyed the newspaper.
Oh, sweetheart, what's the matter? Look what I have. Look what I have. Yeah.
Even at an early age, young Clay always had a newspaper nearby.
Cool.
Although his thirst for knowledge and local news would come later. Growing up, Clay was taught to eat right and read the printed page. Subtle encouragement would no doubt lead to future stardom. In high school, Clay may have been league MVP, but at home, he was like any other teen. His mother always made sure that newspaper was never far from reach.
Local basketball phenom Clay Thompson was drafted in the first round of the NBA draft with the 11th pick overall.
Oh, hey, Mom. Just reading the newspaper.
Knowledge that guides you from childhood to championships. Be like Clay. Read the news. Brought to you by the Mercury News, East Bay Times, and Marin Independent Journal. Go to clayoffer.com.
Then when you cut to the actual footage, there he is with his beard. So the timeline worked perfectly through the years showing Clay in all these different looks. But that was the challenge of video production. And typically with professional athletes, you're going to be restricted by the amount of time you have with the player and their cooperation. So they're typically not going to go above and beyond to help you out. So you have to come up with ways to make this work for your goal and your client's goal. And that's, again, a creative solution to a difficult problem. Another spot we did that was a fairly high-profile production, which came to us through the 49ers. In 2021, with coronavirus affecting the NFL and that no fans were in the stadiums, the NFL had to give back to different charitable organizations, different communities, and one of their partners was Bud Light. Bud Light decided instead of running Bud Light commercials during their Thursday night football time slot, which they were a sponsor of, they would create a commercial campaign throughout the country that would highlight African American owned businesses and give them the spotlight of Thursday night football, which is a huge ratings dynamic for the NFL. They would give 15 or 30 seconds of time to promote a local owned business. So this was an opportunity that in every market in the NFL, they would come to a business that they'd be awarded with a commercial. In this particular instance, the restaurant selected was Vegan Hood Chefs, and they wanted to produce a mini documentary of the two owners of this particular business and highlight them on national TV. So this was shot kind of run and gun style, documentary style, which typically means you're not setting up lights, you're not bringing a crew of 20 people in, and it's not scripted so tightly as to say, yeah, I'm reading these lines, I'm speaking this camera, and then we're gonna move the camera over here, and then we're gonna read these lines. Doing a documentary style is kind of let it happen before you, and it's the production company or the cameraman's responsibility to capture that story as it unfolds before you. So it's a little bit different production. People love documentary style production because of that free form.
Our goal is to create vegan dishes that are fun, that are exciting, and a representation of our culture.
The fact that we have been able to improve our own health, but also encourage other folks to eat vegan, I think is something that is super prideful. We want to heal the hood.
To make vegan food fun for the community.
I think that's one of our favorite things, to let folks know that we're here and we got this poppin' food.
Because this was such a high-profile national campaign for Bud Light, their agency was involved, and they are handled by an agency called White & Kennedy, which is one of the largest agencies in the world, actually. They have several brands. Every brand they have, you would have heard of, you would know. So they come into this situation for the 49ers game on Thursday Night Football, maybe a week before the actual broadcast, to edit and produce this commercial, knowing that it's documentary style. It came together fairly simply. But what we weren't quite expecting, although we should have known working with big agencies, is that it's very important to review every frame of this video. And that when you're doing a national campaign, they want to make sure that there's nothing in the video that is going to get them sued. That's going to get them in trouble by showing another brand that maybe is counter to Bud Light or counter to 49ers or the NFL. So what looks like a very simple production, with here's a couple edits, here's they're making food, there were probably 12 different visual effects in this 15-second commercial. And the best digital effects are the ones you'll never see, you'll never know even existed. In this particular video, the two ladies are walking into a kitchen, and in the background there's their ovens. There's their industrial ovens, and they have a big brand marking on them. That could not appear on Thursday Night Football. This particular industrial oven is obviously not a sponsor of the NFL or of Bud Light. So they didn't want to give free publicity to this industrial kitchen. So the brand had to be removed and painted out of the background. There was another close-up of a knife cutting zucchini that was really up close. It was so up close you saw the name brand of the knife that was used. That was particularly difficult to do because a knife is a shiny exterior. Shiny exteriors reflect the world around them. So if there's a logo on the shiny side of the blade that you see in a shot and that logo needs to be removed, you could remove that logo, but you have to put in the reflection again. Because when you remove the logo, you take out what it's reflecting. So in order for that to work, you could paint out the logo and then paint back in the reflection that was there. So it's quite difficult visual effects that you would never notice, but if you see that knife chopping, it's moving, it's reflecting the world around it, and it has a logo on it. So if you were to watch that now, you wouldn't even notice that the logo was there. There's a sweatshirt that somebody's wearing that had a logo on it. They said, can you dim that sweatshirt so it's not so prominent of a logo on that sweatshirt? There were things on a mask that someone was wearing or a t-shirt that someone was wearing. Those all had to be painted out. And those are painting out digital graphics on fabric, which is moving and bending and twisting. Incredibly difficult effects done in a short amount of time and completely unnoticeable to the viewing audience. So your work goes unnoticed in an instance like this, but the people who know it, White & Kennedy, the 49ers, the NFL, greatly appreciate stuff like that. And what that last note about that, when you do effects like that, the client kind of thinks that you could do anything at that point. So the bar is raised on whatever you could do. Could you put earrings on this person here? Can you maybe put a new necklace on there? Let's dress them up. I don't like their clothes. Maybe that's a UPS guy. We wanted a FedEx guy. So they get a little carried away with that, but you have to roll with the punches and do what you can and manage expectations dealing with any client of what is possible in the time and money allowed.
Thank you so much, Danny and team, for that incredible video. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton over back to Danny, who's going to be our moderator for the Q&A, along with his team, Lucy and Max. So take it away, guys.
All right. Well, I hope you stayed awake during that video presentation for the most part. And just to give you an idea who's here, Max does a lot of our shooting. So he's a cinematographer. So he could help us answer any questions about shooting on set. He's a cameraman. Lucy is a production manager. So she's handling the day-to-day operations of all these productions and queuing them up. So no production gets to Max before it gets through Lucy. So here we go. More talking from me. We selected this first question as what experience and classes in high school would help students prepare for working in video production. Well, that's interesting just from my perspective, because I'm really, really old. You guys are lucky because you have video production classes with experienced teachers and equipment and all that's accessible to you guys that wasn't accessible to me. Or probably Lucy too back in the day.
I did video production in high school too.
Okay, well she's not as old as I am.
That is
She's
true.
still old.
I'm old, but not like that.
All right. So beyond that, but courses in high school, you know what I kind of gravitated towards it, and this is a lost art, is creative writing. Writing was something, I don't even know if they have these classes anymore, but writing was so important because it's a lost art today. Everybody's texting, everything's in shorthand, it seems. But telling a story and building a narrative is an art, and writing is such a part of that. And I hope that the younger generation, you guys can learn to write and build that, because you can't do a production without a script. And how do you do a script? You got to write a script. So you have to be able to write. And that's a big thing. From my perspective as a business owner, it's business classes. Maybe that's something that, you could learn how to run a business. So just the basics in that stuff. So I don't know, what else would you guys say in high school or take?
Yeah, just to add on to your writing, a lot of what I do is event recaps, and that in itself is writing. Everything needs a beginning, middle, and end. You can't just put a bunch of images up and
there's no script that's made with a bunch of emojis.
Exactly.
So,
for example, like if the Niners have a community event and they want to do a recap video, it's way more interesting to have, here's an opening image to set the scene. You can get some people on camera talking about what they did. That's kind of explains the event. And then a closing shot of whether they're building something or like a park. That has a beginning, middle, and end, and it's a concrete story.
We call it the narrative. You got to build the narrative. So,
well, for me, I did have video production. And the thing that I really, really recommend is that you take advantage of the ability to check out equipment and do your own thing. So for me, I was really into music. And so I hung out at a lot of clubs back in the day, and I would take my camera and I would offer to shoot the bands and take their pictures and stuff like that. And then that turned into, hey, can you also do videos for us? So then I would do their music videos for them. So for me, I think the one thing that's really good is if you find something that you like, whether it's being a technical director or a director, producer, shooter, editor, is then to try to go out and put yourself into people's face and just say, hey, I'm here, I want to learn. So and beyond that, I would also go and help people at the cable station putting on their cable access shows and be like, hey, I can help you with this. I can make this better for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's very similar to how I started. If you were awake during my interview, it was wedding videos that got me going. So it was concert videos that got her going. So did you have classes?
I took film classes, which was more like history of film, which doesn't necessarily help me here, but I don't think there's no such thing as
probably
a
does.
class. Yeah. And this whole business is learning. We're all learning new equipment all the time, new software.
And to his point, watching a movie, you can learn a lot from watching a movie because you see framing, you see how the scenes come together and how they're cut together. So even if you're not in film production, you're in making a commercial, it's still very similar. A lot of commercial directors go on to film directors. So that's a natural progression. All right. So the next question is, are there any entry-level roles in video production that don't require a college degree? It's funny because so much of this business that we're in is about the creative. So if you have an eye for design, if you know how to frame a shot, you know how to use lights, you know how to tell a story like we talked about, that's far more important than a resume or a degree. Because when somebody comes in and interview here, I'm not looking at their where they graduated. That's not the first thing I'm looking at. I'm not looking at even if they did graduate. I'm looking at what their reel is and what have they done. And you want to put your best stuff on your reel. That's more important than anything. It's just put everything you could do that is the best quality of work that you have and make that your resume, make that your degree. That's what's important, and that's what people are going to look at. I don't think I ever looked at anybody's.
I'm not a college graduate, so.
Well, there you are.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd say college would be good for networking. You'll meet other people.
Absolutely, yeah.
With the same interests, but certainly not required for.
Yeah, and more and more these days in a lot of industries, that's the way it is. They're looking, if you're a software engineer, they're looking at what have you engineered, not where you went to school. So what were you gonna say?
I saw one of the chat questions wanted to know what the trophies are behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And those are Emmys. So we have several Emmys that we've won.
4 trophies on the top shelf, yes.
We've won several Emmys over the years for various campaigns, and one in particular happened to be where you saw Danny holding a little remote and then the big remote, and that is one of the commercials that we won for.
Comcast campaign we did that had a wingman. So those big props are based on this production where it had a wingman. Maybe there's a little guy sitting on somebody's shoulder, or there's a wingman walking across the table as you saw in that clip. That's the one of those Emmys are for. So you build giant props and put on green screen, and then you put it into the scene, and that's how it's done because you can't find 12-inch actors. It's really hard to find 12-inch actors. That's what I tell people. Let's see. Where's the next one? What qualities or experience would you look for in an intern at Tower Productions?
Well,
you want to answer that?
Since I get handed most of the interns, just someone who wants to soak in information. Every company probably has a certain way they like to do things, whether that's building cameras up or certain ways to edit videos. And, as long as you're willing to adapt and learn, or if you have your own way, incorporate that within the company's style or what the client wants to see. Just be willing to learn, because I didn't know anything when I came in here, and I don't expect everyone to know everything. So
you can't know everything, And we do hire a couple of interns over the summer months. And it's an interesting exercise for us because some come in and are highly motivated and they really want to learn everything. Like Max is saying, they just soak up the information. And others, they're just trying to fill a summer job and kill time. So it's been interesting to see that. Like, for instance, we give tours from the Academy of Art College, which is an expensive university in San Francisco that teaches this stuff. And they'll come in and tour, and we'll give them a presentation or so, just similar to this. And you'll see some of them are just not even paying attention. They're on their phones like this. They're not looking. They're staring at the ceiling. And I'm wondering, they're paying all this money to go to the Academy of Art College and they have no interest in what's happening around them in this business. And it's like, you're wasting your time if you're doing that. If you're not interested, if you don't have a passion for it, then don't do it. You know, don't waste the money. Go do something else. That's what
Find
we
your
see
passion.
more often. Yeah. So that's often what we see with interns is a mixed bag. But we do have internships, and if you are interested, you know, email us. We may not have any this summer, but we do summer internships, and you never know. So I would say if you're interested.
And by the way, our summer internships are usually geared for high school students. So we started that,
We were in San Leandro, and San Lorenzo has a really good.
So we partnered with the high school in San Lorenzo, and we would take usually 2 interns per summer.
All right. So, what was the next one? I'm trying to find the next.
Is there anything in chat?
Well, there is. Can you delineate a particular pathway within your industry to offer the most job security, salary rate, sustainable American cost? We'll get to that.
That's a good one. That's a
salary
good
ranges,
question. Now I like that question.
cost of living, and if so, can you be specific about the salary ranges at that? All right. Well, we'll come back to that. Let me just go through these. We talked about interns. What jobs are available in video production that don't get recognized a lot but are very important?
Oh gosh, all of them.
There's a ton. I mean, watch the Academy Awards on Sunday, and you'll see a lot of productions that you don't, a lot of roles in productions that win Academy Awards, and you wouldn't even know what they are. But I just think visual effects, as you saw in the Bud Light video, like that's incredibly difficult work, and not a single person will ever notice that. If they notice it, you're not doing your job. So you could spend 2 weeks working on something that nobody ever sees or notices. So that's, you know, kind of unappreciated. Have you ever seen a movie with digital effect that looked fake? You know, that ruins the whole experience, right? There's a lot of movies out there that do like, ooh, what was that? That was bad. So that kind of takes you out of it.
Your audio composer.
Audio, you gotta hear. Yeah. So.
Well, but also so a lot of times when you're watching a movie and you're hearing the sound effects, those sound effects are not being picked up by the mic. So those are all put in post and could involve some Foley stage work, which means that they're creating sound effects because they don't know what that sounds like. Let's figure it out. Or, you know, so there's somebody that's literally sitting there and they're putting in every single little thing into the movie, into commercials, into TV shows that you're watching to make it something that you're going to actually enjoy and want to maybe watch again.
What's funny is we did a short film recently, we just finished, and we probably spent 2 weeks doing just the sound design for that. And it was only a 30-minute film, so it was a short film. And there was one scene in there that somebody puts a bucket down on the ground. And what the sound designer did was he goes in his bathroom with a microphone, puts a bucket on the ground, records how it hits the surface, making sure the surface is the same as in the movie, very similar. He records what that sounds like. And then the handle of the bucket kind of fell and hit against the side of the bucket. And he does that, drops it on the side of the bucket with a microphone and records that sound. Then he goes in and he puts those sounds into the video, into the film, and there's a certain amount of realism that you would never notice, but you would maybe notice if it wasn't there. So that's the kind of detail that sound design gives you. People get into that's a little bit of Foley work. Foley work is where you replace sounds within a video, even replace voice work within the video. So that gets very involved and is completely unnoticed unless it's not there. Then it becomes noticeable. So also, you know, what's big is wardrobe and set design. That's underrated because there's a color palette for everything. You know, if you look at movies and commercials, there's a certain tone to it. And that is thought out and that's designed. There's a reason why those colors are all muted or those colors are all kind of earth tones or whatever. I mean, people put great thought into how the wardrobe fits with the backgrounds and how the walls are painted and how the different colors work together. If you're wearing something that doesn't match on a daily basis, people look at, well, that doesn't match. What's wrong? So you don't want that kind of situation to happen in a movie. You want it to be completely unnoticeable and be soothing to the eyes when you see it. So those are things you probably don't notice. I don't know. Am I missing anything else?
No, I mean, you know, and besides like the makeup that you do. So even for like interviews, when you put somebody on, you're still going to want to put makeup on them because the difference between like a naked face and somebody that just has some basic foundation on is that naked face is going to be oily. And as soon as you put them under some lights, that's going to just be enhanced, and then they suddenly look sweaty. So all you need is a little like no shine, and you put them out there and they look 1,000 times better. And they spent 5 seconds in the makeup chair where you're just like, I just need to make sure you don't look sweaty.
No shine just makes you not look greasy. Like, I mean, you saw it in this video. I look like I have bags under my eyes and all blown out. And then Lucy comes on and she has, perfect skin tones on it because she spent like 2 hours on makeup before that. And I just sat down and started doing the interview. So that's the difference, it makes. So I look like I haven't slept in 4 days and she's all perky. So, all right, where are we here with video? Very important jobs that are not important. What advice would you give someone who wants to pursue the same career as you? Wait till I retire. That's be the first advice. No, but be willing to start at the bottom, work your way up. I think we all did that. Learn everything, not only to be experienced in different roles of production, but if you learn all the different roles in the production, you know how to set up a monitor, put on a mic on somebody, you know how to set up the audio, put up the camera, put up a light. I mean, you're learning all those different roles. You'll speak the language, you'll know that equipment. And so when you're in charge as a producer or director, everybody wants to be a producer or director one day, right? When you're in charge and running that set, you'll be able to speak the language of that crew, and the crew will respect that you know how to do those things, that you're educated in those roles and understand their job, and you just didn't skip to the top of the line and become a producer. You worked your way up. I think that's earns a lot of respect, and you paid your dues and you made it.
Max, for example, Max is a shooter and he has also transitioned over into editing. He actually shot and edited most everything in our presentation, not all of it. But Max, I mean, how does that help you from shooting to editing?
I would say if you want to be a shooter or an editor, do both, because, I first got into shooting and became decent at that, and then I'd hand the footage off to the editors, and without fail, every time they'd come back and say, why didn't you get a shot of this? Or, why didn't you get a shot of this? And I wish you got this shot, because they're trying to put a story together, and if I didn't get the coverage they need, there's nothing they can do. So now as a shooter, now that I edit and have an idea of what the piece might look like, I can get those shots. If for example, we shot something yesterday where 2 people are, doing a tour together, and I need cutaways, from one guy's perspective, and then get the reverse shot from another perspective. That way I can make edits and have coverage of those edits. So learning how to edit and shoot would be my best advice.
There's nothing worse than being in an edit suite and not having the shots you need to tell the story. So if you're shooting it, then you don't have yourself to blame if you put yourself in that situation. So it really helps you become a better shooter if you know how to edit. I think that's overlooked often. But you're kind of editing that in your head as you're shooting. You should be. If you're doing an interview and they're talking about something, you're kind of making mental notes that, they talked about X, Y, and Z. So when I'm done with this interview, I should probably go get a shot of X, Y, and Z so I could go B-roll that in. I need a shot of that. If he's talking about it, I could illustrate what he's talking about better, knowing and thinking 2 steps ahead.
I mean, I had my own shoot yesterday, and I was the director. And as I'm going through the motions, I'm thinking to myself, what do I need to give to my editor in order for them to be able to put together what we're trying to accomplish? So, I'm like thinking, let's get this kind of B-roll. Let's get this shot. These can just be cutaways. We may not use them. It doesn't matter. It'll be in the can, and we can archive it for later uses. But that my whole day was spent like, okay, wait, no, I need you to redo this whole chunk because that's just not going to edit together. So myself, when I'm directing, I'm also, because I've had to edit too. It all ties together. Every job is linked together.
So next question here. I know people are asking, is there requirements for summer internship? No, I mean, the requirement is that you have to be interested and want to learn, and you have some interest in the business. And
a little tiny knowledge is good.
But that's...
And availability. So if you tell us that you're only available from 3 to 5, Wednesday, that's not a good internship. So we actually need you to, and I know a lot of you have jobs or help with family businesses and things like that. So for, anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, we just need you to commit to us, and we need you to be flexible because unfortunately, like yesterday, I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning so that I could be in Healdsburg at 8:45 in the morning for my shoot. And if you were going with me, you would have had to get up probably as early. So flexibility, a little tiny bit of knowledge, and really want to know all the different aspects. That's our biggest requirement.
So what's the biggest challenge you face most often in your day-to-day? That's one of the questions. I think dealing with clients is the biggest challenge because, they pay the bills and you have to cater to them. It'd be a great world if you could do what you wanted to do with a video and make the video that you want to make. But in a business, you can't always do that. The client is their agenda. They want what they want. So they're your boss sometimes, and you have to make the production fit what their needs are. I think that managing the client is the toughest job in a day-to-day thing, just nudging them towards the video that is best for them, and you're not always on the same page. So,
and then also making sure that they give you the things that they're supposed to give you so that you can make their production a success. So if you need a logo or you need, what do you want to do for a voiceover? And they don't get back to you. There's countless days where all I'm doing at my desk is email like, hey, are you going to send over those things you told me you're going to send over? Hey, just a reminder, I need you to review this or we're not going to make your deadline. So there's sometimes there's a lot of things that I have to manage with clients that are mentally taxing.
And you have to build their trust, and to allow them to let you do the videos that you want to do that are going to be best for them. Because oftentimes they'll come in knowing nothing about video production and they'll be experts. They'll consider themselves experts. So you have to battle them in that regard to make it work for both. In the end, it's a compromise, but it's not always a battle you win when they want to do something that's different from what you want to do. So that's the biggest battle, I think, the biggest challenge.
What are some more of those student questions? Because we want to.
Let's see. Are there any requirements for internship? No, that's just one about the Zoom meeting recording to the teachers. This recording will be very valuable to us students, parents as well. I'm sure Dee Dee will do that. What's your favorite aspects of being in video production? From my perspective, I'd say it's a new project every day. Max talked about a shoot yesterday. That was what I was on. She was on another shoot. I was on. Max and I were on. We had 2 shoots yesterday. So we were down at the 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are a big client of ours for years and years. And we had a former player there who was given a tour for a company called Socios.com, which is cryptocurrency. And we had to follow this around and make a little funny scene here with a former player. That's kind of fun, I think that's the biggest thing about this business is it's something new every day. It might be a fun project that you learn something new, or it takes you somewhere, it gives you access to experiences you wouldn't normally be able to do. The camera's your ticket to the front of the line. So that's what I like about this business, as far as it really gives you experiences you wouldn't normally have access to. Anybody else?
Pretty much the same thing. I just the variety of work. I'm not going in doing the same exact thing every day.
Sitting in the cubicle, adding up numbers and.
Oh gosh, yeah, that sounds awful.
Like I've
really
gotten
awful.
to travel, meet people I never would have got to meet.
We learn about different stuff too, right?
Yeah, and learn about different businesses. Like we did a tour of the Ghirardelli factory, and I had to sign an NDA that I didn't give away the chocolate recipe.
Give away the chocolate recipe.
We all had to decide that.
Yeah, but everyone needs videos, and you get to learn a lot of cool industries.
Yeah, just a couple of months ago, we were in Los Alamos in New Mexico, and that was with a company that's designing solar windows, and they're making windows that go on a skyscraper that also generate electricity. So this is a new technology that they're just building. Need a video to kind of outline what the technology is. We're learning about, what is it, chromatic dots or whatever. It was very, very high tech. And, you're looking at this is technology that hasn't hit the market yet, but it's something that, you got a sneak preview of just because you're doing a video about it. So there's all kinds of stories like that. And we're sports fans, so we do a lot of sports stuff, which is exciting to us. We've been to 2 Super Bowls, those are things that are just interesting to me from a personal perspective. And as a business owner, we gravitate to things we want to do, right? So we went into sports production because I'm a sports fan. So maybe that's why we do a lot of casinos too, because
I mean, there was that pirate shop that we
pirate shop,
commercial for, and I got to dress people up as pirates and do their makeup, and I was like, what do pirates look like? I'm like looking at Pirates of the Caribbean to get a little inspiration. We've done corporate stuff for like Plasticon, and I did not know anything about plastic, and I know a lot about plastic now. So it's a different job every day. There's some aspects that always stay the same, but you're going to go from corporate to silliness, and you just get to have fun with it, hopefully.
I'll say one thing, not every gig is fun per se.
That's true.
This is true.
There's a lot of boring work, but boring work, pays bills too. So
you hope you get through the boring projects so you can be available for the interesting project, and hopefully they're few and far between.
Let's go down the list a little bit farther so that we can see. There's some student questions about timing of shoots and extra footage and stuff like that on the spreadsheet.
Well, I'm getting there. So I don't know. I just mentioned casinos. I'm sorry. We'll get there. Are we under time crunch here?
Yeah, we're halfway through.
Okay. Well, let me just go through this. I'd rather stick to the thing, and then if you have other things, these are questions that they ask. So I want to stick to this if we can. There's no questions in the chat either. So another one is, have you ever made a big mistake on a job, and how did you fix it? So I mentioned we do a lot of casino commercials. We had one casino commercial where they're giving away Lexus, 3 Lexuses, brand new cars. And we got those cars to shoot for the commercial. And we crashed all 3 of the cars during the commercial. And it just happened to be like when the client shows up, we had this scene where all 3 cars driving in formation coming down a road. And the lead car stepped on the brakes because they saw something ahead. And all 3 cars went crashed into each other. So that would be a big mistake on the job. And that was before we had to do the beauty shot with all 3 cars in front of a winery. And so when you see this shot, the cars are all smoking and bent, and they're in front of this winery now in the beauty shot with a big crane shot coming down on them. We had to actually paint out the damage on the car and then have
visual effects,
and then have the cars repaired so they could give them away. But
to that point, we also only make 3D cars now.
Yeah,
when they're giving away cars.
So when they do a car giveaway now, we're doing the 3D. It's all digital. But that was the biggest mistake we've ever done. And the funny thing is, Lucy handled that at the time when the clients came in. Since it was part of a winery, she went and bought a bunch of wine and gave wine to all the clients. And
which they started drinking immediately.
Well, we were trying to put the cars back together, so and continue to shoot as if nothing happened. But that was a big day. But to our credit, that casino, and to their credit as well, that casino is still a client of ours, and this was probably 15 years ago. So that's the biggest mistake I think we've had on a shoot. Knock on wood, there's no more of those.
Oh my God, please no more of those.
Throughout the duration of the career, what's the longest shift you've ever had to work? Well, there's a lot. Overnights are not uncommon, especially on a film shoot. You have a scene, maybe it has to be shot at night. So you have to wait till night and shoot through the evening. So you have darkness the whole night. We've worked a full day and then flew to New York. I think Max and I flew to New York and then shot and then got back on a plane and flew back home. And we were in the air longer than we were in New York. So, sometimes that's enjoyable, sometimes kind of unique. I think as I get older, probably not so much, but it's still part of the job. You do what it takes to get the job done, right? So whatever it is, do you think of anything that's overnight?
I mean, when we did the movie, our short,
Yeah.
we would work all day long, and then we would take dinner, and then we literally started shooting at night. So, and that was what, a full week of night shoots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full week of night shoots.
And sometimes there was that one that didn't end until like 6 in the morning, and I was like, do I really have to be back at work at 10? I'm a little tired right now.
How long does it take to finish a 1 minute ad? That's hard to say. I mean, what's in the ad? Yeah, it varies. We could turn around a commercial in a day, but that's not always possible. It depends on the production. Are there graphics? Is there a shoot? How many locations are there? What's the talent? You know, we currently have 2 projects going on right now that have been in production for months. We just got the first 30-second commercial out. It was just delivered yesterday, and we shot that on February 11th. So, you know, that goes back quite a bit. But it depends. Something can be very simple and you get it out, and sometimes have a deadline that you got to get out in 3 days or something like that. But if you're shooting it, it takes a long time in pre-production, especially if you're casting with talent. If you're doing visual effects, it's a lot of work. So it's hard to say. It really depends what the project is. So a 1 minute ad could take you months. It could take you a week. So how long does filming a movie take on average? Well, we don't shoot a lot of feature films here. That's not exactly what we do, but just based on experience, typically a feature film could be shot in 8 weeks, you know, to almost a year. You could spend a year shooting a feature film, especially one of the Marvel movies with all the visual effects and everything. It's taking a long time. And how big is the budget? You know, that really determines how long you have to actually put into it. So, but just stick around and watch the credits at the end of any of these movies and see all the names go by. There's a lot of people working on it, and especially effects heavy production, it could be hundreds of names and multiple companies. It's not just one company who produces a feature film. It's multiple companies. How much time does it take you to get the perfect shot for your films? What's the perfect shot? Have you ever had a perfect shot?
All my shots are perfect.
Of course. See, I'm a stickler for that. If I'm behind the camera, which isn't often, but if I am, I will just sit there and I'll shoot it like a million times, and you have to pull me away just because I want it like, oh, just right or whatever, that light glint, I want just perfect. But, you know, sometimes you don't have that. If I'm director producing, I'm like, okay, 3 takes, let's move on, you know, because you got other stuff to do. So you can't always spend that time on.
That's where your AD comes in.
That's where the AD moves things along. Yeah.
Assistant director, AD is
assistant director, and they're in charge.
They do a lot of tic-tac. You got to move on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Clint, just for films, for people interested in films, Clint Eastwood, I'm sure you know, is a director. He's notorious for doing a 1 take. So maybe 2 takes on top, but he's going to take that and go on to the next scene. So he moves extremely fast, and that's very difficult for actors, so much so that there's a lot of pressure on them, and they don't want to work with Clint Eastwood because they can't always do their best work because they got to get it done in 1 or 2 takes, and he's going to move on. So it's what they did in that take is done and over with. So Clint is like that. Other directors around us, they'll spend the whole day shooting hundreds of takes, so 40, 50 takes of the same scene, and multiple days shooting the same scene over and over and over again. So it's very different. That's hard to answer as well. How long did it take you to develop your skills into being professional? Oh, a long time. If you're not still developing, you know, you quit on yourself. So you in this field of technology is constantly changing. You want to keep up. So you want to know all the new equipment and new techniques, and don't ever be stuck in your ways or in a hurry where you're still
from a camera perspective. You know, we have these Sony FS7s that we've had for 4 or 5 years now, and I've got those down pretty good, but we just got a new Steadicam camera, DJI from DJI, the Ronin 4D, and I'm brand new at that. So I got to learn the whole system, learn what functions it has, you know, what the best color space it shoots in. You know, it's a whole new learning experience. So
yeah, it's a constant learning experience, you know.
Yeah, you're never done. Not in this industry. If you're done, then you're outdated and you're not working anymore.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you feel your passion for filmmaking, and how did your schooling help you achieve your job? Let's see. I don't know. How did I find my passion? I can speak for myself again. Just, I think, you know, as a kid, the moment I put images to music, pictures to sound, and you see something that you evoke a feeling from that. And as soon as I saw that and understood the power of this type of medium, I was hooked. I saw from the beginning an extremely powerful medium, and you bring out the emotions, whether it be laughter or drama or suspense. It's just those are things you create with images and sound. And the first time I saw that and did it myself, that was something I thought was really unique and really I wanted to do more of that. So. Not all the stuff we do here does that, of course. Corporate videos, talking heads, commercials sometimes tell a story, and but there are moments, when you type out words on a page, and then you see it coming out of an actor's mouth and onto a screen in a scene of a movie, and you think, "Hey, I did that. I wrote that. I'm the voice of that character." That's a special moment. That's magic. And I think that still gets me to this day, even though I've been doing this for 30 years. And to write something and see it come to life is really powerful to me. So tell that story.
I still get excited watching TV, and I'll be like, hey, we did that. Hey, that's my spot. Yeah. I directed that. Hey, that's my voice. Yeah, that was my voiceover.
On TV. Yeah. So, as for schooling, how did your schooling help you achieve your job?
I mean, you guys are super lucky to have the tools that you have available to you in high school. You got to take advantage of that. College is expensive. And honestly, you can go to college and you do all that, but until you get your hands dirty and your hands on the equipment every day, and that's when you're going to get the best training. That's when you're going to learn the most. And in the Bay Area, especially, there's grip companies that you can go in and ask them questions, rental houses where they'll give you a tour. They'll tell you about the different equipment there. Take advantage of that. That's free. They don't mind doing it. They love doing it. So
let's see. We can skip down here to how expensive is your average camera? What camera do you guys use to shoot? Well, I think it's more of, it's less about the equipment and more about what you shoot, more the images you create. But we have cameras like Max mentioned, FS7, Sony FX7. Those run about $25,000 once you trick them up with the lens and the kits that go with them. A Red camera, we have a Red Gemini. Red is a very high resolution cinema camera. A lot of motion pictures are shot on that, and that there's a bunch of components to that camera, and so you get the body for relatively cheap, and then you add to it, and it adds up. I mean, lenses could be $100,000 for lenses, but a camera like that, when you get it into a working format, is probably $75,000. But you don't need a state-of-the-art Red camera. You need a compelling story to tell. You need a compelling image to shoot, and you could do it on your phone or whatever. That's not as important anymore. It used to be like, we have this camera, we have this equipment, we use this. Aren't we fancy? No, it's now, what have you done with it? With whatever camera you use, what have you done with it? So that's the biggest thing, I think.
I'd rather take someone's footage that was shot on an iPhone that's exposed correctly, nicely framed, interesting image and background than someone who's using our Red and everything's blown out and it's a big wide shot and the subject's, tiny in the frame. It's just not going to work. So it's how you shoot, not what you're shooting.
Yeah. How much footage do you shoot? Do you actually use? The rule is 3-to-1. So you shoot 3 shots for every one you use. But that's just the rule. That's normal. That's not always possible. And if you have more time, you shoot more. If you're in a faster environment, you shoot less. So that's the biggest thing. This important point. There's rules to everything, but don't always focus on the rules. How a shot is framed. There's a right way and a wrong way, right? Well, there is and isn't, right? So maybe you want to be different. Maybe you want to come up with a different creative idea. So don't always follow the rules. Create an identity. Create a look for yourself. I think that's important to experiment. And don't always follow the book. This is a creative medium, so invent something new. Don't do everything the way everyone else does it, because then everything looks the same.
Learn the rules and then push them.
Yeah.
Figure out the rules, figure out how it's done, and then push the boundaries and make something new, create something new. That is the best thing to do.
The biggest example I try to do this quickly because I know we're running out of time, but when you're talking about cameras and lenses and things like that. So that's great. That's terrific. But if you're walking around with a camera and it's on your shoulder and you're shooting with a 50 millimeter lens, 50 millimeter is basically the same as the human eye. You see the same aspect ratio or same focal length as the human eye. And the camera is right on your shoulder, so it's about 5-6 feet in the air. Everybody sees life through that lens. That's exactly how I see with my eyes, and you're shooting it the same as I would see it in real life. How about if you lower the camera? How about if you see things from a different angle? How about if you use a wide lens or a long lens? Those are things that you have to think about. Don't shoot like what you see. Give us angles that are more interesting and angles that people don't see. That makes it more visually interesting, more visually compelling. And I always tell photographers that, look at the world differently, see things from different angles, and it makes the world more interesting. And you have to think about that when you're designing shots. So, let's see, we first started out, what programs did you use? It's funny. I mean, I started in the dark ages. There were no programs because there's no computers. So how do you do that? I didn't have access to the equipment you guys have today. I had 2 VCRs. If you remember what a VCR is, even it's a tape player. I put a tape player here and a tape player there, and one I hit record and one I hit pause. So I'm like this, But as we got further along, you got a computer, and the programs we use today are the Adobe suite of tools, which is Premiere, which is After Effects and Photoshop. Those are things you wanna learn. And 3D graphics, there's plenty of 3D open source programs like Blender, which is free. You could learn how to use that and do 3D graphics without paying a dime. You could get Premiere as a student discount. You could get Premiere as a trial to use without paying a dime. So what else am I missing there?
There's DaVinci's Resolve, Final Cut, iMovie, even
whatever you get your hands on.
Whatever tools you have available to you, use, and then whatever tools you can learn, you learn them too. The bigger your knowledge is, the easier it is to go to a production company, because like Danny said, we're an Adobe house. There's going to be some that are, Avid or something like that. So you got to learn everything.
Yeah, and try and learn the tools that people are using too. And Adobe right now is what people are using. And so if you go into an environment, they're using Premiere, they're using After Effects, and there's a ton of other programs that are out there that are very good, but you got to learn the programs that people are using too.
I am going to ask, maybe you just give the Andrew Hill folks a couple of tips. It sounds like they have an assignment to create a 1-minute film with a 1-week turnaround. If you have any last minute tips for them, and then I'll jump in with the wrap up.
Write a tight script, which you could do. We always joke that clients want creative ideas that are impossible to do in the amount of time or budget that they have. So we say, well, how about the space shuttle landing on an aircraft carrier in the middle of a marching band? Well, you can't do that. So don't do that. Come up with a script that works with what you have time and budget to do. So the script is where you start, and that's how you make it with something that's doable in the time allowed. So that's where you start, at least.
And then I think one more, and then we'll jump into the survey. If you have any comments about salary range, some of the students would just love to hear what to expect when they jump in.
It's tough with the salary range. Just you kind of dance around the question because you don't. Every production is different. If you're talking about what people make and what's secure or what's a safe job position, I'm probably the wrong person to speak because I wanted to get hired at a TV station. I couldn't because I didn't have the experience, so I started my own business. And I paid myself what I wanted to be made, what I wanted to make. When you start getting into positions, maybe it's a union job and you make union scale. And if you're working on a union, maybe it's $750 a day to do a certain role, and that's a grip or a gaffer or something like that. So the problem with that is you don't work every single day. So if you're working in a company like this, you got to make a living wage, and some productions are provide that, and it's really difficult, especially in California, to make a living wage, So you do the best you can, but as building a business, that's, you know, one of the financial things you have to do is what could you afford to pay your staff? What could you afford to pay your people?
I will say there's one thing that I really dislike is when somebody says this will look great on your reel. Will you do it for free? So the one thing I'm going to say to you is do not undervaluate yourself. Always make sure that if it's a passion project and you want to do it for free, that's one thing. But if you're feeling pressured that you're not going to break into this business unless you work for free, that's no good. So you need to be paid, and as you gain experience, you need to be paid what others are. So so sometimes PAs start out at like $150 a day, and that's okay, right? As you start to build up, but at some point, you're going to be beyond a PA. And then when they're like, well, why don't, how about we do this for trade? Well, what's the trade? What do I get? Oh, you get your name in the credits? No, thank you. Don't do that to yourself, because you're gonna break your back, you're gonna kill yourself, and then who's paying your rent? So that whole like it'll look great on your reel is very insulting to people like us.
And how much, there's salaried people like us, and then there's freelancers. So freelancers make a certain day rate, while other people who work for businesses make a salary or an hourly rate. So, a DP we just use on a shoot who's, he has an agent in New York. He's very high end, does a lot of high end stuff. He could charge $2,500 a day. A PA, like Lucy is saying, is maybe $300 a day. Those are freelancers. Those are the rates of freelancers. So if you're working every day, you're making good money, but you don't work every day. So you just how fast you want to push the.
And you have to find your own work.
And you have to find your own work as freelancers. Yeah. So that's why it's so difficult to answer.
Salary's hard.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm gonna just jump in because I know the students are gonna have to leave momentarily, but this has been phenomenal. And obviously there are so many more questions to answer that we can definitely put in the after list for you guys. I want to thank, first of all of you students for filling out this survey. It's got the QR code there. It should just take you a couple minutes, and it means a lot to us to get that feedback. And feel free to share your email address in there if you want to learn about some training and experience opportunities down the road. We'll be happy to send that out. First of all, I want to give a heartfelt thank you to the co-hosts of mine from Atomic Productions, Danny, Lucy, Max, and James, who's in the video. You guys were amazing, and I think everyone, myself included, learned so much today. In addition, I want to thank our school partners who were fantastic in setting this up with us. Adrienne Aubrey, Julie Bedell, Enrique Jacobo, Victoria Mitchell, and Faith Velkow. Big thanks to all of you. Huge thank you to Amy Wender of Wender Weiss Foundation for Children for her ongoing support for this program. And finally, and especially, we want to thank all of you students from Wilcox, Andrew Hill, Sequoia, and Woodside for joining us and engaging with us on this virtual field trip. You guys are awesome, and we really appreciate being here with you today. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Hopefully you guys got that survey. I can go ahead and share it with the teachers as well, just in case anybody missed it. But it's just high noon. So thank you for being with us, and have an awesome day.